What are my favorite architecture schools? That question is a very easy one for me. Of course, the University of Washington is my favorite architecture school. That is my alma mater, of course. That's where I got my bachelor's and my master's. But all kidding aside, there's a lot of great schools out there that focus and have different strengths depending on what you want to go into. In the state of California, where I'm located right now, there's quite a few very, very good schools. In my opinion, in the state of California, the Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is probably the better school. We see very, very good graduates coming out of there. Secondly, from there, Cal Poly Pomona is another real good one. Then you have from there the New School of Architecture located in San Diego, which has done pretty well, not very well known, but I think that they put out some pretty good architects. I think Berkeley has a very, very good school. USC is a little bit different in their approach of teaching architecture. They have an orthodox method. However, they're still a pretty decent school. UCLA has a master's program which I think is very, very good as well. Yeah, every state has schools of architecture that are really, really solid. The key is to be able to look at their accreditation, make sure that they're in good standing, that they have the capacity to get the students trained properly through their academic structure. And it's most definitely very, very important to be able to go visit these schools. The reason the location is very, very important is because we are learning through the built environment. Okay, a lot of the projects that we study or that we are able to learn from are real projects. So urban settings are very, very important. The quality of education that you're going to get from a school in an urban setting is going to be very, very different from a school that perhaps is in a rural area where you don't have access to real projects or projects that surely are in a diverse range of types of buildings that cover a diverse type of range of buildings. I think it is very, very important to consider that as well. There's so many very good schools out there. I think it's very, very important to be able to consider what type of architect you want to become. I think it's very, very important to consider whether an architecture school is within an urban setting or a rural setting. You are going to be exposed more to real projects if you are in an urban setting. When I was in school at the University of Washington in Seattle, the beauty about being located in that area of the country was that we had a lot of projects being built in Seattle that were very relevant to what we were learning. We could apply the lessons learned from those buildings directly into our education. You may not get that kind of exposure in more of a rural area. That doesn't mean you can't get a very good education. You certainly can, because there certainly are a lot of great schools out there. But that is probably one of the biggest things and most important things I would consider if I was going to become an architect. The only other way to become an architect is to work under an architect, a professional architect, for 8 years. And once you have completed that period working under the tutelage of an architect, he can sign you off to be able to take the licensing exam. Not always do architects go that route because the employers may not be committed to educating or training the student into truly becoming an architect. You don't hear it often, but there have been occasions that really were quite successful. Frank Lloyd Wright, for example, he did not go to architecture school, but he was brought along by Louis Sullivan, one of the great architects of all time, and he committed to educating him and training him. But then again, Frank Lloyd Wright was a genius. He could have taught many other people without an education because very intuitive in the field. So that's the only other way to really become an architect.